Welcome, everybody. If you are a human, which nowadays we seem to be nudged aside a little, but if you are a human, you have hormones. And today we have two of the best industry experts on getting hormones to work for you and to really understand what this is all about. So let's get to it.
Empowering women on a global scale. Welcome to Powerful Women Today with Carolina Billings. Powerful Women Today is on a mission of inclusion, rewriting his story to include her story, and empowering, raising, and amplifying women's voices with professional speaking, publishing, original podcasting, and web TV. And now here's your host, the founder of Powerful Women Today, Carolina Billings.
How come we do not speak enough about men hormones? I was just thinking that when the reel was playing. So welcome, Dr. Alex and Monica. Monica was retuning, refining her sound. So we're just going to check in with her in a second. So welcome, Dr. Alex. Tell us what's going on in the world of hormones.
Oh, chaos. Let's just go with that. We really, I think we're starting to see these days with it's more prevalent in women going through menopause, I think, who are more aware of like, hey, something's not right here. But, our fast-paced lives and how we do life, go all the time and fairly disconnected from ourselves and from others has really created this environment where we're seeing a lot more symptoms and issues that are related to hormonal chaos.
Yeah, and that's so interesting you say that, because the truth is that our body goes through hormonal changes several times in our life. We just get fixated at menopause, which really works against women, like in narrative and in culture, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk, Monica? You're gonna give us a hello when you're running, my darling. Yes. We're gonna try to pull a little MacGyver here. How is that doing? Okay. We can hear you. So, Dr. Alex, we were talking about the different times in your life when you go through hormone changes that we just may breeze by it and not realize that is what is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I look back on my own journey, and I'm 38 and have ended up actually working with a lot of women in menopause and probably understanding more than most women who are currently going through it just from being in that environment. But for myself, I've always had PMS. I actually got my cycle when I was 9. Like that's not particularly normal. And always really, really struggled with either weight gain or a lot of breast tenderness or a lot of the things that we normalize the symptoms. Mm-hmm. And, the same goes for fertility issues, which I've seen an increase in since COVID and a few other things, though we're going to be politically correct on here and not talk about anything related to that.
No, I mean, we're not naming names and pointing, finger at this point, but we do want to know, because there may be some people experiencing things that they cannot understand and they may not realize that it's all linked, right?
Yeah. I've seen some crazy statistics in the world of hormones as I've gotten into it where up to 80% of women don't realize that that's what's going on until after the fact, until after they've been diagnosed with something or, and along with that, Western medicine isn't well equipped to really help because it's a lot of like take birth control or take hormone replacement therapy. But there's not much understanding of like what should the ratios be and why has this happened and
what the side effects of the pills. Like, you may end up with your original symptoms plus then some, right?
Right, because they mess you up more.
So. Yeah. So, Monica, are we fully wired up now?
I don't
Yes,
know.
you are. Yes, you are. Okay, so I am so excited to bring the two of you together. Like, we're all part of the same sisterhood, Powerful Women Today, Mentor Experts. But sometimes, there's many of us, so we end up, gravitating at different times. But today is like such a special day. And we're going to talk about secondhand hormones. And you mentioned cycles beginning early, which I've read that has a lot to do with the hormones that are fed to the food that we eat, right? And it's the same with your industry, Monica. What got you so passionate about going beyond? Really, in life, they say that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you accept. And you stop accepting what was the one of the most toxic industries, which is the hair care industry. So tell us a little bit about what got you started and passionate, and in all this business about secondhand hormones.
Okay, so my biggest thing was that when people were coming in and they're telling me about their hair thinning, and they're telling me how many, their thyroid issues. And my mom, unfortunately, died of thyroid cancer.
Mm.
And so then it was like everyone that I knew that was in the holistic world was using, CBD, but CBD back then, 7 years ago, was illegal. Just to purchase a vial of CBD was $300. Not everyone could afford that. And then it was like, why is a plant that is grown from the ground being considered illegal? When you look back in history, our first American flag was made out of hemp. There's so many things that hemp is made from. And I don't know everyone's beliefs, but I started reading about it, and God said that's the plant that is the only plant that could feed you, clothe you, and heal you. So why are we not doing more research on it? And then when finally legalized and they started doing all the research and it started coming into America that actually supports the endocrinoidal system, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is something I definitely want to get into because of being in this industry. I want to sit there and support other women that we could still work and have a healthy environment and still do people's hair, but do it the healthy way.
Yeah, because it's both. It's the person by choice using, dyeing their hair, right? But then there's all of the industry professionals and the technicians that are being exposed to these, right? And there should be like some kind of workplace, warning to it. And I'm not sure there is. And now symptoms like hair loss and symptoms that seem not connected, Dr. Riley. And I keep, going back and forth with Dr. Alex, Dr. Ali. So bear with me. It's the same person. Um, what what are some of the symptoms that somebody may think is, oh, it's stress, but is it stress in hormones? Is it the stress activating the hormones? Mm.
Yeah, so I mean the answer is both, and the big reason is stress, and the main hormone of stress, which is cortisol when produced by our adrenals, impacts all of your hormones in your body. Your sex hormones, your thyroid are the big ones, your digestive system. There's more there. So as we have stress, and stress can be, the world that Monica works in, there's a lot of external stress from products you're putting on your body and in your, it's insane. Monica, you might have the stat, but it's somewhere like women use around, I think it's over 200 different chemicals on their skin every single day between their personal care products. And all of that's going into your body and wreaking havoc on your body and your hormone balance.
Oh, I apologize. And
That's okay.
I remember last time speaking with Carolina, we were actually speaking about that. You just saying that those chemicals are being put into our body. And me and Carolina had that conversation. I'm like, you are what you absorb. And people don't realize that you're absorbing those toxins. So whether it's a chemical in your hair products, a chemical in your makeup, a chemical like laundry detergent, that your clothing, there's just so much. And it is time to make these people aware that we need to make better choices for ourselves. It's our health and it's our body. And they talk about other things, but they're not talking about the real issues of what those toxins are and how we are so exposed to those toxins in the United States. Why are there such stricter EU standards? Why do we don't have those kind of standards here in America?
So what is there something that can be done? Like, can we So yes, we take responsibility for what products we use, like consciously or
Mhm.
unconsciously, right? We may
Yeah.
not know that the hand cream, or we may not know, sometimes we think we're doing good, but in buying the organic tuna, or there was some issue about tuna that was also killing dolphins, right? Or vice versa. I can't remember what it was. Like, you're trying to do good, but you don't really know, like, everything, whether it's a marketing strategy or whether it's real, right?
Mhm.
How can we begin this journey of discernment, if we can sense intuitively that something's not right? How can we begin? How does that conversation begin, Dr. Ali?
You know, I think it starts with, first just becoming educated. Like, I'll share a little bit of a personal story
Yeah,
here, because
please
I've never shared this part with you, actually. But when I was when I was 20, I had something happen during an intimate moment and developed what's known as vulvodynia. And so that literally just means pain in the vulva. But
do.
it hurt every time I went pee, every time I had my period. It was absolutely awful. And they were talking scary things like surgery to,
Mhm.
cut out part of my vulva, or like, this is a significant part of your,
Especially at that age, yeah.
yeah, far too young for that. And it was in that journey that I learned and got really clued into that my diet made a difference, and that my personal care products made a difference. And even today, I mean, this is almost 20 years ago, but I learned how to change my detergents and only wear cotton underwear, and, stopped eating. I went off the big three, which is dairy, gluten, and refined sugar, mainly chocolate at that point. And it was those things that finally helped. There was a emotional side to all of that, where there was a fear of pain, especially with intercourse. And after my son was born, that came back, and I finally dealt with that. But, I think in getting started, like, we have to be willing to look outside the box. The information is out there to an extent. It can get really overwhelming and frustrating. And you can feel like, oh my gosh, I need to, like, throw everything in my house away, including all of my clothes and detergent, and just, like, start all over. And I've had, when I, did more functional medicine, I've had clients who were left with, like, a Brita filter in the refrigerator after we talked about what's in food. And, the same goes for our personal care products. So I really recommend, like, choose where you're going to start. Some of us are already eating well, but maybe you haven't looked at personal care products. Maybe you've looked at personal care products, but food is a thing. Maybe you're doing all of those things and just need to make little tweaks or hone it in slightly differently. And a lot of it, and what I talk about is actually how we impact our internal environment by our emotions, and starting to understand, what's going on with our body below the neck, because most of us are disconnected from there.
Right,
So,
in our internal, like, a lot of, in I've said this before, actually, in shows, like, online, and people have looked at me funny when I say that most, and I'm not a doctor, well, I am actually in the process, but it's in marketing, so I will save your message, but not your health. What I was going to say is that I do believe that a lot of the illnesses are psychosomatic, that they do
Mhm.
begin with feelings or emotions. And then you compound that with the products and our environment, right? That is so
Yeah,
overproduced. Um, that, yeah, like, how can you're right. How can we even begin to understand if we are not in the industry, right? If we don't know what
right.
those 25 consonant words mean, right? It's like, okay, so it has that or it doesn't have that. Well, what
Yeah.
else does it have and what does it mean, right? So a question to both of you. So let's say, I begin to work with a practitioner, whether it's holistic, care through with Monica and her products, which are beautiful, or with you, Dr. Ridley. How soon can people see change?
Monica, you want to go first?
So with me, and if I'm telling them to use organic makeup or organic hair care products, and my hair care products that I have are not just for the hair, for their scalp and the hair. or using the CBD. I actually, they literally within 1 week will call me and say, I honestly wasn't a believer, and now I see the changes. They, they're
Wonderful.
sleeping better. Their fight or flight mode in their brain is turned off. I mean, that's another thing is like that fight or flight mode, that hamster wheel that's constantly turning. They don't know how to shut it off, and then that causes anxiety, and it could cause depression and other ailments if you're not getting the proper sleep. So I'm a huge advocate about the CBD because it supports that. And I'm also not a doctor, but I've always been one that I'd rather look at something that's natural that goes into your body, that your body, if it doesn't have, has enough of, it knows how to dispose of it. It only uses what it needs, and it's the same thing with my shampoos and conditioners. When they're plant based and they're so healthy for you, if they have too much protein in them, your hair will never break. Animal protein byproducts that you put into your hair will break your hair. If you put vegan products, you can wash them out and your hair is nice and healthy. And it's like the makeup. When I used toxic makeup, I could wash my face, my water was still white. So I'm like, where the heck did the makeup go to? And now I wash my face and I have organic makeup on right now. It's EU certified, EWG standards, Credo Clean. But I could literally see the colors in my sink. My sink changes colors because of the makeup coming off my face. Where before my sink was nice and white, it stayed white. I'm like, so where did those toxins go if all those colors are not being? Yes.
Yeah.
So those are those things that I've learned, and just like Dr. Alex said, I was like, you know, using products that were better for me, the cotton, and having, even menstrual pads that are cotton, because you don't want toxicity. And unfortunately, where do toxins go? They go into through easiest way they go through you is through your private parts.
Yeah, and you know what? I read a piece of information somewhere that said that every piece of plastic that has been created still exists.
Yeah.
Can you, like, doesn't that just blow your mind? When I read it, I even read it out loud to the person I was with, right? It's like hear these, right? And they're like, no. And I said, yeah, like talk about, responsible product creation. Like every piece of plastic in our history that's been created still around. In
What's even
that we consume.
Yeah, what's more disturbing is how much plastic is actually in our bodies and stored in our fat cells, because the body can't get rid of it, and so that's where it ends up. I don't have the statistic, but at one point I think I read about how much plastic is in children, and it's highly terrifying.
Well,
So
I can't remember if it was our kids or ourselves that we eat about 10 we eat enough plastic equivalent to 10 credit cards. Like I can't
I
remember if
believe
it was
it.
a year
Yeah.
or a day. Hopefully not a day. But yeah, so the products and all of that. And I still, how is it possible that we still two things that we still stigmatize the concept of hormones, having frank conversations about hormones in especially in the workplace. The last thing, if you say hormones and woman in the same sentence, there's some major microaggressions occurring, right? And how is it possible that we're still not being open about it and saying, listen, this is what's happening to me, right? Like, is this normal? Because I think it was
Yeah.
you, Dr. Alex, that said we've normalized so much of it.
Yeah, we really have. What I find interesting, I don't know if you've been following, I think just because I've been in that world, I've been seeing, like in Europe, they have started having conversations about hormones and women. And Spain was one of the first places to pass like a, work leave
Legislation.
for hormone type symptoms, or like period pain, or, dealing with menopause, which there's a lot of mixed feelings about it. And I think there's some of it's cultural and just an unwillingness, especially among women in leadership roles. Like it's I think there's a fear of it making us less than, or which we already still are compared to men, but of it somehow differentiating us in a way that it's stigmatized as being bad. So it's like we ignore an entire part of ourselves. But the reality is we all go through it. And actually men go through their own version of menopause. It's just
Yeah,
not
exactly.
talked about at all.
Well,
So
yeah, it manifests. Does it manifest differently?
it does. Yeah.
Right.
For whatever reason, because of how this is my theory, I'm actually not backing this up on science, but because of the differences in how testosterone is in our
Mhm.
bodies between men and women, there's less emotional upheaval
Oh, I see. Okay,
that's noticeable.
different type of
Is
hormone.
my yeah,
Okay.
is my thought around it. But
So, you both touch on a topic that I do. There's just so many questions, and believe it or not, our episode is like we've flown over. And what I do want to go back in I hope we're able to schedule it back in May, another episode, because I really want to speak about exactly what you said in the C-suite or in leadership or as a high performing woman, right? You know, hair loss or early wrinkling of the skin or
Mhm.
things like that are kind of like battle wars, right? Like, or early graying of your hair or like things like that. And it seems that is a no winning game. On one hand, you want to tough it through, right? Like, it's you
Right.
know and on the other hand, why is it that at this day and age, we're accepting it, going
Mhm.
through that, and B, not realizing that this is a consequence of something, is the symptom of something else, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a several part series in which we learn to recognize and understand what does it mean, what does it look like when you change products. And I know I'm in my 50s, and I think and I know it sounds funny when I say it because I understand I have poofy hair, but I think I've lost so much hair. You know what I mean? And can that be reversed, right? And I don't have any bald spots or anything like that, but I don't know, I can feel it. Like, when you're styling your hair, it just feels that there's less, right? And
Mhm.
can something be done about it? And that, among with many of the other symptoms that we see. So, what can somebody, and I know we're over time, but this is a very important part of my belief system, is that there's got to be something we can do today, right? So, to both of you, to end our segment, what can we do today to even make, begin that first step in the journey, right? So, Dr. Alex, if you want to start, and then Monica can close off our show.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you two things, one internal and one external. So the internal, because, I talked about stress is impacting our internal environment, causes chaos. So deep breathing. All of us have forgotten how to breathe. So really focusing on feeling your belly move out as you breathe. And if I just learned this, if you actually plug your right nostril and only breathe through the left, it activates your parasympathetic response.
Oh,
Super cool. So in
okay.
and out through your left nostril, feel your belly move. And the other is, we talked about so many things related to external products, and there are so many out there. So don't get overwhelmed. Just pick one thing. What's one thing that, if it's still in that realm of toxicness, or maybe you just download the EWG app or that's environmental working group, or there's an app called Dirty, I think, that will tell you how toxic your products are. Just, start
Let's look them
start
up
with
and put them
education.
in the comments so that
Yeah.
we can share them. And how about you, Monica?
Well, mine is creating those healthy habits. What bad habits do you actually have, and what could you create? If you're not exercising, create that healthy habit of exercising. If you're not eating well, create it. It doesn't have to be every day. Just create one day that you're going to make specifically something that is healthy for you. Because if we start those healthy habits, then it's consistency. You become consistent at it. And if somebody needs recommendations for, products or whatever, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to go over stuff, because if we could just change even one bad shampoo for one good shampoo, or whatever it is, one bad makeup thing for, one good thing. It doesn't matter where we start. It just choose one and create that healthy habit. And then you'll see what you're receiving from creating that healthy habit. And it's not a quick fix, but it's something.
And you both wrote really strong, informative, as always, articles on our Powerful Women Today magazine. I will put the link to your articles, and I cannot wait to do my scalp facial. What was it? Is that what's called? It's called facial.
Scalp detox.
Oh, scalp detox.
Yes, it's removing
That
all the impurities.
that I'm trying out. So I'll let you know how it went. So thank you so much for your generosity of time and thought and expertise. And please be on the lookout in the comments, because we'll put the links to products, to information into the last issue, the most recent issue of Powerful Women Today magazine. So thank you, and we'll come back to follow up on this topic. Bye, everyone.
Empowering women on a global scale. This has been Powerful Women Today with Carolina Billings. To learn more about how you can join and transform your life and the lives of women everywhere with professional speaking, publishing, podcasting, and web TV, visit powerfulwomentoday.com. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen and watch your podcasts.